all through middle school and high school, I played mostly three main sports: basketball, soccer, and baseball. In high school, dabbled a little bit with tennis and racquetball and track and field, threw a little discus and shot put. But mostly I was playing basketball, baseball, and soccer. I probably was the best in baseball, but the sport I loved the most was playing soccer. And you may have seen the video of our soccer team winning the state championship. We had so many great memories, playing soccer in high school, and I was pretty good. I was the team captain. I was named all-state in all conference and all tournament and some of the tournaments that we went to. I was, one of the better players on our team. And so when it came time to go to college, I knew I wasn't good enough to get a full ride scholarship somewhere to play soccer. And in fact, my parents really wanted me to go to a Christian college, and so I went to this school called Cedarville University. And I'm like, you know what? Well, maybe I could kind of walk onto their soccer team. And so when I was visiting campus, I wasn't recruited to go anywhere, but because we went to such a small school and played at such a small level. But when I did a campus visit, I had a meeting with the soccer coach, Coach McGilvery, and had put together a videotape of some of my soccer footage, some of my best plays. Here's me slide tackling, here's me, boom. And showed it to him, and he was like, "Wow, you're pretty good." And he goes, "Yeah, we'd love to have you on the team. You're welcome. You've made the team. Welcome to the soccer team." And in fact, we can set you up with a small scholarship, to kind of go with that. I'm like, "Hey, man, I'll take that." And it was only a couple $1,000, but I go back. I'm like, "Hey, I got a scholarship to play soccer in college." And so that summer I ran and trained, worked hard. And my plan was to go to college and be a soccer star. If you talk to anybody, well, what's Jeff doing? Oh, Jeff's going to college. What's he going to do in college? I'm going to play soccer. And, when I was in high school, I don't even remember any of my classes hardly in high school. What I remember about high school is playing sports. Now, you had to go to class because if you didn't get good grades, you couldn't play sports. But I played sports every day of high school, right? I played soccer all fall, and the day after the last soccer game, started basketball practice. And the day after the last basketball game, started baseball practice. And so every day of high school, I had either a practice or a game every day. That was my life. My life was playing these sports. And so I'm going to play sports in college too. And so I get there, and, first day of practice, and I suit up, put my cleats on, and go out there, and everybody starts running around, and they're doing drills. And I immediately realized that these other guys were at a much higher skill level than I was. And, when I was in high school, a lot of my success, if any of my old teammates are watching this, they will attest to you. My claim to fame in high school soccer is I was just aggressive, right? If there's a loose ball, I'm going for it. And if you're going for it too, I'm going to send you flying. If I got to slide tackle you and flip you over, and that was kind of my specialty. I'll slide tackle, as long as you hit the ball first, you can do whatever you want to those people. So I hit the ball and then twist my legs and bam, slam people on the ground. And so aggressiveness went a really long way in high school soccer, especially back, in the 1980s when soccer wasn't that big of a sport in America. All the really good athletes were off playing football somewhere, not playing soccer back then. And so I was aggressive, but I wasn't highly skilled. And what I realized day one is that everyone there was faster than I was, could run farther, longer than I could, had better ball handling skills than I did. I was the worst guy. And I knew it, and everyone knew it. And I was like, oh no. Part of what I didn't account for is because Cedarville University is a Christian college, there's a lot of missionary kids. There's these missionaries that go all around the world with their families and raise their kids, but then they send them back to the U.S. to go to college, a lot of times to a Christian college. And so on this team was kids who grew up in Colombia and grew up in Argentina and in Peru and in Germany and in Sweden and Spain, places where soccer is like a religion, where in those countries, the best athletes play soccer. That's what they do. And so these guys were running circles around me. And so I hung in there for a couple of weeks, but it was obvious to me that I was the worst guy in the team. I'd never been the worst guy in the team. It was embarrassing. It was really embarrassing. And I was quickly losing my hope that I was going to be a soccer star. We had some scrimmages. Coach wouldn't even put me in the game. I'm just, I'm like, this is not good. So finally, I went in and had a conversation with the coach. And I said, hey, coach, I think we've both seen that I'm really not as skilled as a lot of players on this team. He's like, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, young man. And I go, well, you know what? I'm just a couple of weeks into my freshman year of college. The sky's the limit on activities I can do and things I want to do. I don't want to keep pursuing this if it's not going to go anywhere. But I don't see a path where I'm ever going to be one of the stars on this team. And he goes, no, it's probably unlikely. And I said, hey, be honest with me. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? And he said, looked me right in the eye and he goes, honestly, Jeff, if I were in your shoes, I would pick something else to do with my time. And I said, thank you for being honest with me. I think that's probably best. And we shook hands and off I went. So people are like, well, did you get cut from the soccer team? Well, not technically cut. I just quit going to practice and they quit expecting me to be there. We had an amicable parting of the ways. But I went through a time where I was really kind of adrift. Like, right, if I'm not a soccer player, well, what am I? What am I going to do? I'm a super competitive guy, but I don't have the skills and abilities to compete in sports at the collegiate level. And most people don't. But it was like, gosh, I had like an identity crisis. And I'm like, well, I want to do something, but what do I want to do? I can play intramural sports. Okay, that's all the has-beens and never were's and but at least that'd be fun. I did play a lot of intramural sports. But about a week after getting cut from the soccer team, I met a girl and we got talking and she said, hey, I got to go. I'm going to speech practice. And I said, speech practice? What's speech practice? And she goes, oh, I'm on the speech team. The speech team? What's a speech? I never even heard of that. I mean, I did drama in high school and some speechy kind of competitions, but like a speech team? What's the speech team? She goes, oh, it's a team of students and we go around to other universities and we go to speech tournaments and we compete in events like impromptu speaking where you have to speak off the top of your head, and informative speaking and persuasive speaking and interpretation of prose and poetry. And she goes, it's really cool. And I'm like, well, I want to check this out. So I started doing a little bit of research and I said, speech team? How hard could that be? I've been speaking my whole life. Well, I'd like to join the speech team. Well, you can't just join the speech team. You got to try out. And tryouts aren't until, springtime for next year. And so when it came around to springtime, I took a speech class, fundamentals of public speaking, and got an A in that, did pretty well. And so I tried out for the speech team, and I made the team. And that first year, I kind of really struggled. I was not great, but I actually, in one event, I took first place in informative speaking at my first event. I got last place in another event, impromptu speaking, so I had a long way to go there. But started really focusing on that. And so, when other people were out partying or going to bars or whatever, what I was doing on nights and weekends in college was practicing giving speeches, traveling to speech competitions. The judges would evaluate you and give you critiques, and you'd work on improving. And I did that sophomore year and junior year, senior year. My senior year, I actually won first place in 5 different speaking events. They have an award called pentathlon. It's like the decathlon for Olympics. But I won first place in 5 events, first place in the state. One of the judges came up afterwards and said, wow, you're really, really good. And I was kind of an average student in college, but I got like B's and C's. But I did pretty well in speech competition. One of the judges comes up. His name's Dr. Jack Rhodes. And he had just, given me a perfect score in one of my events, rhetorical criticism. And he said, hey, Jeff, have you ever thought about graduate school? And I said, nope. But he offered me a full ride scholarship. I went on, got a master's degree. They offered me a faculty position. I've actually told this story in another video I have called The Definition of an Epic. But since then, I've gone on and done public speaking and training. I own my own company now doing that. Have had a lot of success in this field. But you know what? All of that success goes back to getting cut from the soccer team. that if I had succeeded in my goal to be a soccer star, I would have never tried out for the speech team. I would have never changed my major to communication. I would have never had this path, would have never met most of my friends, would have never lived in Oxford, Ohio, where I met my best friend Vince. Maybe or maybe not would have married my wife. I don't know. But that crushing blow of like, you're gone from the soccer team turned out to be the most pivotal, most important thing that ever happened in my life. And so that's my encouragement to you. If you fall, if you fail, if you stumble, if you bomb out, if you flunk out, sometimes, right, a setback is really a setup for a comeback. That maybe, maybe you've heard, when one door closes, another one opens. I don't know if that always happens or not. But if you're willing to look for it, I bet you that you can turn negative situations into a positive. If you're willing to open your mind, try new things, set new goals, and see what you can accomplish with your life. Looking back on it, hey, Coach McGilvery, thank you, sir. I actually ran into him at a funeral just a couple years ago and was able to, I don't think he remembered me from 35 years ago, but was able to thank him for cutting me from the team and setting me loose to go pursue other dreams and goals.